Hello and welcome. This is one of my 60 conversations, 60 inspiring conversations for my 60th year on this amazing planet. And today I have got the lovely Julie Cluley, I have had the honour to meet her in person and we've hung out together. We've cold water swam together in the sea in Scotland.
Yes.
And yeah, definitely, we have had some during our time in the sea. We had some amazing conversations.
Mhm.
We hadn't got the computer with us to record those then, but I thought this would be a great opportunity to have an inspiring conversation. So, Julie, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, and then let's see where this goes?
Yes, of course. I was just thinking as well, as you were saying that, I was like, oh yes, we'll be able to cold water swim in Devon again
Yes,
in a few
we,
weeks,
we will.
which is super exciting for your conference. So yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about that side of it in amongst the logistics of booking flights and garnering lifts and finding a train and all that stuff. It's like, God, yeah, yes, cold water
And
swimming.
the conference that you're talking about is an annual conference. So whenever you are watching this, there will be another one coming up in March, whenever the next March is happening.
Yes, indeed. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I was there, I should say as well, I was there not last year, I didn't make it for, well, I don't know, some logistical reason probably. But the year before I was there and clearly loved it because I'm going back. So that's
Absolutely.
all I need to say, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And there is cold water swimming available if you want to do it during the conference.
Yes, I'm taking one of my good friends from school is coming with me this year, and she does not cold water swim, and she's like, "You're not getting me in there." I'm like,
Let's see, let's see. Things happen when you're in the room. I mean, this is the whole point behind these inspiring conversations. When you're in a room, when you come together with people like that and you connect with your heart, your soul, your whatever, the love within you, it is amazing what can happen.
it is amazing. It is amazing. And yeah, so what do I do in the world apart from, well, it's really interesting. I was thinking about the other day how, we are all different people in different scenarios. So I'm like a daughter, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a wife, I'm a dog lover, I'm, a dog listener, which is the kind of name for what I do with my work.
Mm.
And depending on, I don't know, what mood you're in or whatever, depends which one is like the most important one or the one that you want to be. It's really, it just was crossing my mind. I literally last week and I was like, yeah, no wonder I get like all in my head sometimes. I'm like, I don't know who I am.
You're
Like,
a million things and you're nothing.
yeah, exactly. And it's when I remember that I am nothing in the nicest possible way,
Yeah.
that's for me freedom. It's like, yes, of course, we're all of these
Mm.
things or some of them, but the idea that we are really none of them. And it just, oh my God, like when I first came or I first heard that properly, in my awareness or my conscious mind, I was like, hmm, I'm not sure I like that. I was a
Yeah.
little bit like, my ego was like, well, hello. Do you realize how much work I've put into these things? It's just exhausting. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Mm.
Therein lies your freedom, Julie. Therein lies you get to be whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yes.
And it just feels really, I don't know, clear is the word that's coming to mind. It just feels really clear. It feels really peaceful. Feels really loving. It just feels like, oh yeah, like that's what, like we are everything. And so yes, I think when I think of myself in the world for a very long time, until probably even the last few months, my work persona, for want of a better way of putting it, has been really high in my mind, because in my world, I grew up being validated for hard work, essentially,
Mm.
being validated for being busy, being validated for doing more and more and more. And for me, I know a lot of people have the thing where it has to be really good and perfect. I didn't actually have that. I just had to be doing something. It didn't matter what.
It, it's so fascinating, isn't it? Like you, when we look at the stories that we take on, like you put it beautifully when you describe, you know, you said, I'm all of these things. And yeah, we all have these personas, whatever, these
Yeah,
parts that we play. And the realization that, oh, I'm the one making these up and I can play them, I can completely change how I play this role if I want to in any given moment. And also, yeah, that whole looking at how have I created that role? When you look at the bits of stories that we came across, that we were told, that
yeah,
we heard, that we, you know, in a million ways. And it was
yeah,
like the bits that, for whatever reason, we kind of thought, oh yeah, that I'm taking that on. Oh yeah, no, not that. And we did that all so unconsciously and innocently.
yeah,
And some of those things have really served us well. Like I can look in my life and see some of the things that I both took on and refused to take on have served me incredibly well. And some of those things have completely and utterly screwed me over.
yes, yes. But and I guess at the time, though, they were required.
Absolutely.
Do you
Yeah.
know? And that's the
Yeah.
really sort of slightly, when your ego really gets upset, it's like,
Yes.
what? I did that. Like, that didn't serve me at all. It's like, well, no, it didn't serve you at all with hindsight. But in that moment, it must have served you in some way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it.
Mm.
You know?
Absolutely. Even if it is only for a millisecond.
Yeah, for exactly. Even if
Yeah.
it's only to get that ego off your shoulder, or
Yeah.
to remove some guilt or some frustration, or what, do you know,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yes.
is, it's
Yeah.
it's it's never not served you for that
No.
millisecond that it, yeah, when it happened. Huh.
During a conversation earlier, just before we came on here, I was actually talking about the fact that you know there's lots of amazing sayings bandied about, but there's this one particular that says it's not the destination, it's the journey. And I
Mm,
really, like this morning we were really talking about that, and it's like, yeah, we are actually creators. So we're not here for our creations per se. We're here for to create. And
mhm.
so, and it's not that we shouldn't have stuff, it's not that we don't have stuff, it's not that there's
Yeah,
anything wrong with stuff. But if we were purely just you know, if it was just about the creations, this conversation would be more along the lines of, right, I have 575 cars in my drive, which is a 2-car drive. Can you help me with this problem? I just keep creating, you know, this, and I've got all this money in the bank that I have no idea what to do with. I could keep creating it, and you know, all of these things. And we definitely do create things, and there is nothing wrong with having things. But you know, when we spoke then and about these things that, like, when I can look back at things that didn't serve me, the way they served me was they made my journey amazing. Because if I hadn't have been screwed over in one way and then had an insight, a realization, seen something different, then allowed myself to be something completely different in the world, the feeling in that, the what I got from that was immense. So it actually served me, this not being great, not feeling great, actually served me because of what I can now see, if you like, that
yeah,
journey. So
yeah,
yeah, everything has its place, and this journey that we are on called life, oh my gosh, it is like being on a roller coaster. It's like we don't get on a roller coaster. It is great when we get off and we're back on firm ground and we see it, but the ride is the amazing bit.
yeah, yeah. And it is a roller coaster. Um, you know, and Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of a roller coaster, but
See that?
as an analogy.
Nice
However,
and flat, feet firmly on the ground, no, nothing high, and definitely not fast moving downwards. No, or
yeah,
upwards.
yeah, or upwards, exactly. Um, but it is really what I love about when I do remember that, if I'm in a, in my head and everything's like just going too fast, I
Mhm.
guess, is knowing that it's the journey. Like there's another saying around that. It's something like, um life is what's happening while you're making plans, or
Yeah.
something like that. And that
Yes.
it really rings true for me. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe you should just like sit still for 10 seconds and
Yeah.
just see what's actually around you, and what's happening. That book, Slowing Down to the Speed of Life, just blows me away, because we're creators whether we know it or not,
Yeah,
as far as
absolutely.
I can tell. Um, and for me, it's like the slowing down thing allows me to appreciate the creating
Yes.
rather than just going through life creating, sometimes good stuff, sometimes bad stuff, sometimes everything in between. But it's like the joy for me is remembering that it's there for observing, it's there to appreciate, it's there to, yeah, just enjoy.
Yeah.
And having the time and the space to do that is something that it was never validated for me, or if it was, I didn't hear it. So it could
Mm.
well have been, but I just didn't hearing that. Um, when, in my kind of upbringing, it was very much the, doing and not just like you said something there that really hit home for me. It's like we are creators and we are creating, but it's the the creating that's really amazing, rather than what is created. If you see what I mean. Whereas I think in our culture, or certainly in my upbringing, it was never about the creating process.
Mm.
It was about, well, what are you going to, like, why are you doing that? Because you want this,
Yes. Yeah.
or you want to create, do you know what I mean? Like, even like a painting or a book, or whatever. It's like the focus is always on the end goal, and then it takes away the joy of the process. So you get that, you get that dopamine hit when you finish something and you've done it. That was my
Yeah.
drive, because it
Yeah.
was like, well, this is going to be amazing when it's done.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Like, really?
Mm.
And I really try really catch myself. Like, I laugh about it now when I hear myself in my head normally going, oh yeah, it just needs to get done, just needs to get
Mm.
done. Then it's going to be all okay, and
Then,
then it will
yeah.
be okay.
And then
It's
I will be happy, and then I
and
will be
then,
this, and
yes.
then it's that, yeah. Well, there is somewhere to get to, and when we get there, things will be okay. And like you say, for me, that book you mentioned, Slowing Down to the Speed of Life, it's like seeing no moment is missing anything. It's like peace, tranquility, love, connection, all of these things that we believe, yeah, when I've done this, I'll get that. But they all exist. The only place they can ever exist is now. And if we don't find them in this now moment, then the likelihood that we're going to find them in some other moment, well, we're not. There is no other moment. It's now. And it's kind of like, yeah, they're available here if we slow down and stop. And when we actually start looking, okay, so why do you want that? I want that so that I can feel better. But when we take a moment and take a breath and just, I know for me, sometimes just looking at my own hand, the
Mhm.
amazingness, like if you think about what our own hand can do,
Yeah.
and it's like, they're just, I mean, try and create one of these. Like there's the scientists who, for various reasons, recreate these things, and they fall short by a million miles. They're absolutely brilliant and so
Mm.
sophisticated and so amazing, and yet they fall short by a million miles of
Yeah.
what just this. It's like,
Yeah.
and if we stop and just become present to the moment and who we are, it's like the peace, the love, all of those things that we thought some future moment was going to bring us, they're right here. And then it is, yeah, we are here having this human experience. So, you know, creating a business a dog whisperer, creating a business helping people dare to be themselves, creating cold water swimming, coming to conferences, the logistics of sorting it all out, they're all just a beautiful part of it.
Yeah. And when we find ourselves in the present moment, I've found it recently that it's almost overwhelming,
Yeah.
when you really see it, you're
Yes.
like, "Oh, whoa, oh my God," it's like, it can feel quite, yeah, I think overwhelming is the word. Overwhelming in what I would describe as a good way, rather than the overwhelming of, for me, the overwhelming of speed generally
Yes.
is what
Yeah.
happens for me, is like, the overwhelm of, I need to do this, I need to do that, and well, I don't know, the world's going to combust if I don't, get my sheets changed from my visitors at the weekend, and nonsense like that. You're like, oh, really? But actually sitting in the beauty of what we have available to us right here, right now. Um, I actually think, if I'm just really honest, that sometimes I push it away because it feels too good. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. Even just saying that out loud to you, it's like, what, Julie? But it's true that's what it can feel like. It's like, it's almost like there's comfort in the working hard, the doing more, the striving, the, oh, well, then I'll be happy, because in this moment right now, the love is so strong and the connection is so strong that it's almost unfamiliar,
Yeah.
and we don't do well with unfamiliar. We don't like it. We want things to be comfortable, I guess.
I the that quote that says it's not our what is it? It's our power that we're afraid of. It's not our weakness, and what that's not quite that, is it? I'm completely
Yeah,
butchering this quote, but yeah, and that's what I was really hearing in that, and I too have really experienced. I know sometimes when you come together, you can do it within yourself, or sometimes when I know, when we're in a room together, like at the conference, and just the overwhelming feeling, you are so connected with the love that you are, the truth of who you are, that it is, we have thought ourselves, our egos have told us that we are these small things who, oh, if you don't get your sheets changed and your house cleaned and your business up and running and your partner
yeah,
perfect and whatever, all of these things, that you're worthless or whatever. So we have had this idea of our worthlessness, of our nothingness, and then we connect to this truth of who we are, this love, that this unconditional, inconceivable love that is true about who we are. And exactly like you say, it feels too big and too powerful. It's like, whoa, I can't deal with that. It's actually easier to deal with running up and down the stairs, hoovering, cleaning,
yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah,
a million things on my computer to pretend that I'm putting this business or whatever. That
yeah,
feels like an easier option than actually welcoming in this enormous power
yeah,
that is me. So
yeah,
I can totally
yeah.
relate.
It's really, yeah, it is quite, it's all consuming in a good way.
Yes.
And then, like, for me, I kind of think, well, when I was saying earlier, when it comes to like my business, my work, that seemed to sort of like, if you, I've got this vision, right, of my head, and then all the different like people that we are, you know, like two different people, different people, then, you know, the work one seemed to fill like half. And then the other bits were like here and here. Whereas if you actually sat down and spoke to me and asked me like what I wanted, like what did I want to create, that wouldn't have been it. That would have been like, I'd want my business to be, I don't know, a quarter or a third or something, and you know, the other bits to be bigger. But there's something about freeing myself of that, of having the workspace being such a big part of my personas, whatever. It's like there's a lot of guilt in there. There's a lot of unfamiliarity, because that's not how it has been, basically. You know, in my story, that's not how it has been. And the idea, even the idea of letting it go, sends me into a, oh my God, I feel so guilty. I need to be doing something more. I need to be doing, you know, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. And it's a physical, like visceral reaction to that. And I guess it's just, you know, for everybody, when they want that change in some way, it's like, well, like, you don't have to do it all at once. I remember someone saying to me, like, you don't, you know, you don't just have to do, you know, let go of everything. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that was, yeah, right, okay, maybe just one step at a time. And then obviously over time, incrementally, you know, you're sort of just showing up for, you know, whatever you want to be in that moment. And then before you know it, you're like, oh yeah, actually, this is all great.
Yeah, this has completely changed. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the beauty of it, isn't it? And I think the more that we get used to hanging out in that space of the beautiful, the love and the power that we are, the more familiar that gets. Because definitely, like you say, you know, I can see for so much of my life, I just didn't really hang out there. So then when I started to have experiences and glimpses and times when I was there, it really felt overwhelming. But then
Yeah.
to actually come to it and, like exactly like you've described, decide we get to recreate ourselves in the way that we want to do that much more consciously. And we can absolutely, like you say, we can take it slowly, one step at a time.
Yeah.
However, and to me, the thing that I am forever grateful for is understanding, you know, through coming across the principles and seeing that, understanding that there is like a safety net that I can lean into. And I know, you know, the times when I got into the most trouble was when I thought, oh yeah, this is all on me. Like you said, oh my gosh, I've got to let go of this, and I've got to do this, and I've got to show up this way. But actually the realization that this power, this overwhelming love, this gorgeous feeling, whatever, that's there to support me. It's there to, you know, I can lean into that. I can lean into that amazingness at any time that I want to. And as I lean into it, then the most practical of things, changing the sheets, hoovering, getting the kids from school, you know, my kids aren't in school anymore, but I do pick up my
Yeah.
grandson. But, you know, those kinds of things, the most ordinary things in life, when we are leaning into that truth, that power, that love that we can feel, everything changes. Everything is easier. Like you say, the business, the whatever hats, whatever role it is I'm playing, we're playing at that moment.
Yeah.
It takes on it takes on a whole different meaning, and we can show up in a whole different way.
Yeah, it really does. And the idea for me still, you know, even as we're talking just now, it's like, you know, work being easy. Well, that's fine. Work can be easy, but you're not going to be then like good at it, or, you know, like having a proper business, you know, making good money, you know, all that kind of thing. It's like, well, it's almost like you can have that, but you need to really work hard for it.
Yeah.
And I'm really conscious with my own kids, to not say, you know, if you work hard, you can get anything you want.
Mm.
And that's quite controversial in my world because, you know, it's like, what do you mean? Well, if you don't work hard, then you're not going to get anything. You're just going to lay on the sofa all day. And I'm like, well, my lived experience of that is not true. That is not what happens
Mm.
when we lean into freedom, love, peace. What happens is we just take the path of least resistance,
Mm.
essentially.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
you know, the results, for want of a better way of putting it, is, you know, is the same, really.
Mm.
Um, but the experience of it, or the experience of the journey, is different. And yeah, even saying that, I think that's probably the first time I've said that out loud, that I have actively stopped saying that to my children,
Oh,
because I don't believe it's helpful.
I really, really, really want to acknowledge that, actually. Yeah, that is, I think, you know, one of the reasons behind these conversations, these inspiring conversations, is to highlight that there is another way to be in the world. And I think, um, you know, generations past, and clearly the way you were brought up and the way I was brought up, we had these stories, whatever they are, the stories, like, you know, we take them on. This isn't a blame. I'm not blaming any, you
Yeah,
know, past generations. And they, you know, I know my mum and dad did the best job with bringing me up with what they believed to be true. And
100%.
I can really see, I'm incredibly grateful for waking up to there is a different way, there is a different way to see this and view this. And I really, really want to acknowledge and acknowledge how difficult that can be sometimes when you have had a story that feels really ingrained into you, to see, yeah, actually, I want to break this generational habit and show my children something different. But actually, and like you say, it's not about, oh, lie on the sofa and let everything come to you. I mean, that's not a fun life, you know. That's not
No,
but
exactly. Who would do? Nobody does that if they are living, excuse me, from peace and love and freedom. And if they're feeling that, then they're not. I mean, they obviously, sometimes I lie on the sofa, I love it, but you know what I mean. It's not like you're not going to. You just not. That's just not what happens, as far as I can tell, in this world. It just isn't. And I do remember when I first came across the three principles, actually trying it out,
yeah.
actually testing it and going, right, okay, today I'm going to lay on the sofa. You know, I'd have like a quiet day with work. I'm working online, I'm working from home. So I was like, I'm going to have a quiet day and I'm going to lay on the sofa. Literally couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
uh,
But it did feel like it was almost like I was trying to see for myself, experience for myself, if what I had heard was true. Because, to be honest, for me, like, I had an amazing upbringing. You know, my parents were brilliant. You know, my sister's amazing. You know, I lived a wonderful life. We traveled overseas, you know, like, amazing. So the work hard story looked true, because I did then get amazing things. And, you know, I had a really good life until I didn't, obviously, until I was completely burnt out. But it was, it looked very true to me that the working hard worked.
yeah.
And I think I really wanted to see for myself, like, well, if you take your hands off the gas, if you actually just lean into life, into what is, and stop this incessant striving and, you know, I'll be happy when, and shoulds, and blah, 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 all that stuff, like, what will actually happen? And I say this to my clients all the time in the dog world. So I will recommend that they do something with their dog's like barking madly or lunging on a lead, or whatever. And I'll recommend something and I'll say, and I really do not want you to believe me. I want you to go there and be with your dog
and
and
test it.
try it and test it and see for yourself what's true.
Mm,
Because I think we also live in a world which is very prescriptive.
yes. Yeah.
And I, now looking back, have always struggled with that. And I think actually most humans struggle with it because,
We're
you
here
know,
to experience. We're here to
yeah,
have our own experience.
exactly. We're here to, like, yeah, create our own things.
Absolutely.
And
And
when we
experience
go,
personally.
yeah, when we're like prescribed something to do, there's something about that that feels good because
Mm,
it feels comfortable, it feels familiar, but it doesn't, I don't know how to really describe it. It insightfully, like you're never going to find insight there, or you're unlikely to find insight there because that will be somebody else's prescription
yeah.
rather than your own one. Yeah.
So, because I think even if we come to the same conclusion as someone else, when we
Mm.
come to that conclusion for ourselves,
Yeah.
it makes sense to us. It is alive in us. But when we have heard it from someone else and it's just a good idea, it's like words don't teach us stuff, our own experience does. And to me, we need a balance of them both. It's like
Yeah.
you say, if you say something, right, okay, take your dog out and do this. And I've worked with people a lot around creation and relationships and stuff like that. And very often I was exactly the same. It's like, we'll do this, try it, see what happens when you do it. And seeing it as a good idea and actually trying it out are two very different things. And you sort of need them both to a degree, but it
Yeah.
is, you can't play a game sitting on the sidelines. You need to sort of get in there and kick the ball or whatever, ride the bike, or you
Yeah.
need to actually physically do it. And when we physically do something, we we learn, we really see things for ourselves, we really learn. But it is, I think, as human beings, very often we have resistance when people say try this. It's like, yeah, I think I know what the results of that are going to be, and so we
Yeah.
just kind of write it and we don't actually do it. And it is
Yeah.
when we do it, because whatever, even if we realize, oh, actually I don't think that person is right, and whatever it is, if we actually go and do these things
Yeah.
rather than just hear them.
Yeah. Yeah. Hear them as a nice idea. And I mean, what I've seen with dogs, and I'm just thinking about it there with I guess with people as well, is that, like, you can't get it wrong because there's a feedback system. There's a really good feedback system that will tell you if you're getting it wrong, and
Mm,
it's not going to feel good, and your dog's going to behave crazy. And so then okay, well, that isn't working,
mm,
or it's not working yet, or I need to be more consistent, or I need to be calmer myself, or all that kind of thing. And it's like I always say to people, just try it. Like,
yeah,
nothing bad is gonna happen. You might feel a bit of uncomfort. You might feel a bit uncomfortable, and your dog might feel a bit uncomfortable, but you will know
yes,
that it's obvious. Like, you can see what's happening, you can feel what's happening, and then you're like, okay. It's like that self-correcting thing where you just stop, essentially. You just stop doing whatever it is you're doing, and the system will self-correct. And our dogs are exactly the same. I was thinking the other day about, I wonder if dogs have thoughts. I decided they do, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to experience anything.
mm.
Do you know, or like as in,
Yeah, I think they do too. I don't think they have as complex a system as we have got to think and overthink and rethink, and maybe you're comparing things, but they definitely, like you say, to experience, I think it's a much more simple version of the same system that we've got. I think that
yeah,
was the
and
conclusion I came to when I
yeah, when you thought about it. And I'm
yeah,
not sure if it's actually simpler, or if it's just different, because their senses are different. They're the same but different, you know, like they're like, because they see the world through their nose essentially. It's like, and through their hearing, and they don't see much through their sight. So yeah, so that would, I guess, yeah, change things. And then, you know, what's actually going through their head, and you know, how much like like how much story can they do? Maybe
Yes.
they don't have this, the what is it, the computer memory
Yeah.
that we have.
Yeah.
Maybe there's less computer memory, so they don't
Mm.
put so much nonsense in there. And
Yeah,
so
so that's what I mean by simpler. They don't have all
yeah,
that sort of thing. It appears that it is a much a very similar system to ours, but not quite the same, and little because because dogs still, they can have anxiety. It appears that they
oh,
can get
100%.
anxious, they can get, so there must be a thought system of some kind operating, because without thought there's no anxiety.
Yes, exactly. There's no anxiety, there's no awareness of feeling.
Yeah.
There's no, yeah. So they must have something there. Um, but yeah, it's fascinating to sort of think that one through and go, yeah, what is going on there? And they, yeah, I think their anxiety seems to come in the moment, rather than, like, they don't seem to suddenly be anxious about something that happened 6 months ago.
Which we human beings can do. We can be anxious
Yeah,
about something that is potentially going to happen in 6 months. You know, we make up a story that tomorrow, next week, in 6 months, this thing is potentially going to happen, or we can think back to something and create that. Yeah, but it does seem much more of the moment, doesn't it? That the
yeah, for the dog.
anxiety.
Although I guess there, you can say that there would still be a physical reaction to something that happened maybe 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
yesterday or whatever, and the cortisol or the stress hormone might still be there, so they can go from 0 to 90 much quicker, if you don't give them enough time to recover from
Mm.
something that's happened, you know, something traumatic that's happened. And yeah, what that trauma would be. Anyway, sorry, I'm just going off on one now about dogs.
Well, you're the dog whisperer, the dog lady, so that is absolutely your forte.
Yes.
How did you get into doing that? How did you get into the way that you work with dogs?
Well, I got into it from my very first dog. So I was married before, and on our first wedding anniversary, we gave each other two dogs.
Oh.
Two puppies, they're gorgeous. And then, long story short, one of them, when around the time we split up, one of the dogs died, very suddenly at the age of 2. And Pepsi, my dog, the one that survived, so we shared her basically. And then ultimately I ended up keeping her mostly, and he came and got her as well. Like, so at first basically he was the main carer and I was the weekender, and then it swapped over. I was the main carer, he was the weekender. And I started a dog walking business as well. And when I started the dog walking business, that's when she came to me, because we were like, oh, you know, I'm a dog walker now, so I can take the dog. She'll be with me all the time. Da, da, da. Anyway, by that time, she was 6, 7 years old, and she had developed separation anxiety, probably fairly obviously with what had been going on. And that also developed into protecting me so much that she became aggressive with other dogs. So she, which is not great when you're a dog walker.
No, not great for business.
Not great for business. So it didn't quite turn out how I had imagined.
Mm.
And interestingly, one of my dog walking clients actually, because funnily enough, she was actually okay with the dogs that I walked because she saw them as part of the pack. But
Yeah.
then other dogs would come over, she wouldn't like that. So one of my clients had lent me a book called The Dog Listener by a lady called Jan Fennell. And at that point, I'd been looking for, I don't know, a couple of years for, how to help her. And I'd
Mm,
seen lots and lots of different traditional kind of methods and techniques, and they just didn't really land with me. And I tried them and they didn't really work. And I was like, I'm not sure about this. Anyway, I read this book and I was like, wow, amazing. And from there on, I just went all in. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And because I was a dog walker, I could see that it would be really helpful to develop my understanding to help with the dogs that I was walking, to
mm,
just ensure that they were having their best walks, calm, quiet, they were all relaxed. So yeah, I did a foundation course and I did an advanced course over, well, I think like it was like 2 separate times over a year, and then started working with clients one-to-one. And then I had kids, so I was working with people one-to-one, just going to see people. At that time I would go and see people, work with them, work with the dog for usually 3 or 4 hours, and then they would get some backup and on the phone and stuff
mm,
afterwards. And I did that pretty much for about 10 or 12 years, as the kids were growing up, because it worked really well because I could fit it in when
mm,
my husband was working away and all that stuff. And then after I had done that, really COVID happened actually. Up until that point, I was still doing, mostly one-to-one stuff. I'd done like group classes and a few different things I was testing out at that point because the kids were a bit older. But then COVID happened, everything went online. And
mm,
so I moved all my clients that I was working with at that point online. And around that time, well, it had been maybe 2 years earlier, I'd bumped into the three principles because I was burnt out basically working with all clients
mm.
one-on-one like that. And then it all kind of came together and I created my online course that I have now called Peaceful Pause, which is my favorite place to be. I get to hang out and we meet every week, and once a month in the evenings, we have a WhatsApp group, and I basically support people on an ongoing basis. So we have like that initial consultation that I used to do, and then I'm able to like work with people for a year in that group environment. And that's really just, yeah, it's just amazing. And the transformation that I see with people is just amazing. And like we were talking about the roller coaster,
Mm.
um, I'm able to help people through that. Whereas when I was doing the one-to-one stuff, you just can't do that because unless I'm going to move in with them, do you know, I can't really be there. So it's kind of opened that up, and it means I
Yeah.
can help people all over the world, obviously, because we record the calls. There's a course in the group, in the membership portal, and all that stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's just transformed everything, and it's amazing. And like I was saying earlier about the job thing, it's like, how does it get to be that easy? How does it get to
Mm.
be so effective? And I'm not burnt out in any way, shape, or form because I can hold space for so many more people in that way than I ever could have going and seeing people. And people always say to me, well, do you not need to see the dog? No, I don't need to see it.
I guess
Because I believe you.
yeah,
People are like,
yeah.
but you need to see the behavior. I'm like, I believe you. I don't need to see the behavior. I believe you. I totally know
Mm.
what's going on. And I can help you from that space. So
I love that. I love that. I love that. What a beautiful conversation. Thank you. And I love the versatility of what we share here. Like, we can, this has an impact everywhere, your kids, your husband, your dogs, everywhere.
yes.
It's so beautiful. So if people are interested in your work, interested in getting in touch with you, finding out more about you, where's the best place that they can find you?
Yeah, probably the best place is my website. It's www.juliehelpsyouhelpyourdog.co.uk.
Oh, I like it.
So it's a bit of a long one, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's what it does on the tin. Julie
Yes.
help your dog.
Yes, exactly. And I'm on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page of the same name. And an email as well, the same. I always love to hear from people. So anyone watching this wants to tell me about their dog, tell me their story, tell me what's happening. I would love to hear.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, well,
Thank
that was
you.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Julie. And
Thank you
I've
so much.
I've loved hearing how you got into doing this, because I kind of knew it was what you did, but didn't know how it started.
How I got in. Oh, that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye for now.